So, the bus driver. So, what issues do we have here? Well, we're not looking at a rural situation. This is now a city situation, an urban situation, and we're looking what's probably a lower or an upper middle income country. More likely a lower middle income country, given some of the other issues that we're seeing here. So they've got an unregulated transport industry. This means that there's a lot of pollution occurring and a lot of collisions. So some poor traffic safety. And poor traffic safety is not just a lack of infrastructure, but it also indicates a level of adherence behaviourally to driving safely and to following the rule of the law on the road, and can be indicative of other ways in which things are run in the society. Long hours and low wages in a very competitive environment it would indicate here that we're seeing quite a lot of inequality, and we're seeing an economy which, although is growing quite rapidly, is growing rapidly on the backs of the workers, and so there isn't very much equality, and there isn't very much welfare in the consideration of the employees, and so it's very much about this country, the way it's operating is very much about wealthier people improving their level of wealth, but not really so much looking after the poorer or more vulnerable people, or the people with a weaker voice in society. And this is notable in the fact that the transport workers don't have a union. The reliance on fast food and the sedentary existence of in a very polluted environment have led to the bus driver developing some of the classic symptoms of non-communicable disease. They've got poor water supply and a poor electricity supply within their housing, so that would also indicate that there is unsustainable or poor infrastructure in the urban development going on. So this is typical of countries which are moving into the middle income bracket, where there's been rapid urban growth, but the so this has been without adequate infrastructure being provided. And so we're seeing here effectively the formation of, it's an apartment building, so not quite a true slum in the classic sense, with what might be termed as a shanty town with corrugated metal huts and things like that. This is a flatted development, but it's a flatted development that's been put up with little consideration for building control and planning permission, and so the structure itself is quite unsafe, and the property itself and the infrastructure around it needs a lot of upgrading in order to provide, so to ensure that things like the electricity supply is reliable, but also that the water supply, which may have left the water treatment works in good condition and 100% potable and wholesome, who by the time it arrives at the tap of the bus driver's flat has picked up a number of infections on the way, and so that water all needs boiling before it can be drunk, which then costs the bus driver more money in fuel costs. There's private healthcare only in this country. There's very little money being put towards that, and very little money being put towards the education of children in this country, which should indicate there's a lack of both of consideration for the general welfare of the population, but also a lack of investment in health and the future of the population. And if this country wants to continue to grow its economy, it's going to need not just more manufacturing people, but also it's going to need more people with a higher level of education, as it's then going to need to use those resources, that added training and knowledge, to be able to compete against other countries in the world, in the global marketplace, with the companies that it's hosting within its borders. So the bus driver is the main earner within the family. And there's no mention in the case study of the woman in the family providing towards the economic income of the family. In countries where you've got greater equality between men and women, you generally see a better provision of healthcare and education within the country, which then promotes the country's some more sustainable growth and better conditions within the country, and that's notably absent here. Clean water and sanitation we've touched upon. Renewable energy would provide cheaper and more sustainable sources of energy in this country. Good jobs and economic growth picked up. Innovation and infrastructure is notable with the lack of the poor development of the towns and cities. The communities and towns and cities would be sustainable cities and communities would be an issue. But innovation and infrastructure, it also cover the way in which the country is being hopefully investing its infrastructure to catch up with this development of its population and its economy. Reduced levels of inequality. There's evidently significant inequality between the workers and the people that are in more powerful positions in society who are employing them. Consumption patterns here, because it's a large urban sprawl, are likely to be unsustainable but it's not mentioned explicitly in the example. Climate action is certainly mentioned as due to pollution. Life below water and life on land, not so relevant. Peace and justice, partnerships with the goals. Partnerships with the goals are always relevant, but it's likely that this country is going to need some outside assistance in order to support it as it goes through its the growing pains of it growing its economy, growing its population, growing its income, and allow it to catch up with a lot of the large and expensive infrastructure and equality changes which need to be made in its society. So where can environmental health staff take part in this? Well, we talked about the wider policy environment. So the wider the policy environment is likely to be very much the wealthy and more powerful in society looking after their interests, and there's very little representation for the poorer in society, such as unions and the like. And so environmental health can advocate and lobby to try to get more proportionate and better representation for those elements of society. Environmental and public health staff can also provide educational opportunities, given the working environment for these bus drivers, to try to spend some time doing interventions with them at depots and bases to catch them before or after they're on shift, and try to encourage them to make better health choices as they carry out their work on a daily basis. They can monitor pollution levels and put in place interventions to try to address the pollution. They can do road traffic safety promotion schemes and try to advocate for better road traffic safety policing and budgets for that policing. They can go into this poor housing which the bus driver is living in and force the improvement of water supplies, and they deal with issues with the structure of the properties, and try to put in place systems to allow the new builds to be better regulated in future. And so these are there are other ways in which they could address the problems this bus driver has, but one of the things you'll notice with this and with the other case study is that these are multivariate problems. There are problems with a series of variables affecting this bus driver and this African tribeswoman. They if you draw comparisons between them and your home environment, you'll find that the same sorts of general things are going on. Think about the union fights that have been going on with central government over ensuring there's the deal with things like the gender pay gap, and providing a sustainable living wage in the UK. And so these things, because they've got multiple causes, they have multiple things that you need to do to address them. And so these must be considered not individually but holistically. And so you'll find yourself as environmental health or public health officer working on multiple fronts to try to improve the public's health in any way in which you can.